And a very warm welcome to SDIG Global Conference 2025. SDIG's Global Conference this year is focused around beyond boundaries, building bridges in education, wellness, and AI for transformative growth, amongst several other subjects as well. Your hosts for the next few hours will be Dr. Joseph Nwoye, the president and founder of SDIG, and Dr. Karen Walker, who has been an SDIG stalwart for quite some time. Dr. Walker is an IOP specialist, which stands for Industrial Organizational Psychology, which means she's very clever. It also means that she's extremely good at organizing things, which is very helpful for all of us here. It's a pleasure to have you joining us. We'll be going through the afternoon in a number of sessions, and we're crossing across all continents of the world with those attendees who are joining us from around the world, and also the panelists who are with us as well. So it is my very great pleasure to welcome all of you to SDIG Global Conference 2025 and to introduce your host, Dr. Joseph Nwoye, President and founder of the Systemic Diversity and Inclusion Group. Dr. Nwoye, welcome.
To our third panel session today, and this is our education panel. And so we will get to hear from Dr. Namita Rajput again, which will be great. Dr. Angela Cleo Smith, the Dr. Wumi Adekunle, and then also Dr. Joseph will be joining us on this panel as well. So, and as we've been doing on the other sessions, we'd like to give the panelists an opportunity, about 2 minutes or so, to deep dive for us, kind of what you're involved in, and how does it align with SDIG's quest for peace, equity, and social justice in our global communities. So since I can see you up in front, center, Dr. Angela Cleo Smith, you want to go ahead and go first?
Okay, I don't mind. Yeah, it's been a great day so far, and I just want to say thank you for having me here. And just good day to everyone. And it's wonderful to know that people are here from all around the world. I'm in Oakland, California, and I'm Dr. Angela Cleo Smith. I'm what I call myself a people strategist. I'm a public administrator, and I specialize in workforce equity. I'm a conflict mediator and recently a culturally responsive system designer. So my work spans education, local government, community development, and I focus on how people and institutions build trust, how they build that sense of belonging and capacity for shared growth. So through my work with youth, educators, and public systems, I've learned that education is not only about knowledge transfer, it's about identity formation and healing. So when young people see their culture, they hear their language and have their lived experiences reflected in the learning environment, they engage not just in their with their minds, but with their whole selves. So SDIG's commitment to peace and equity and social justice aligns deeply with my philosophy that education must be human centered. We cannot achieve sustainable national development or global harmony without first ensuring that our classrooms model the societies we wish to build, the places where dignity, empathy, and inclusion are practiced daily and not only just preached. So, my guiding question is always, how can we design systems where learner feels seen, they feel valued, and capable of adding to peace and progress? And this is the work. And that is why I'm honored to be part of this dialogue today.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And we look forward to diving more into that aspect on this panel. I'm going to go ahead and invite Dr. Adekunle to go ahead and go next. If you can give us just 2 minutes of what you're, give us a snippet of what you've been involved with and how it aligns with SDIG. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walker, and all the people that have worked, to put this in, to make this a success. I'm a Murolake, actually, Adekunle, that's my full name. And I work both in the academia and in development sector. My principle is to give a voice to the voiceless. And that has always been my emphasis as an educator. I always encourage my students to see people, from holistic development lens, whatever they are doing, as a faculty member in the School of Journalism, and digital media. I try to encourage my students to always look at people, from the perspective of holistic development. What can you do, as a person to make the lives of people better? I started by working with rural people. I was working with a Christian organization to empower rural women, to empower the youth, to manage issues of their reproductive health and everything. According to Dr. Wayne, Dr. Wendaya, who is a public speaker and author, he said that whatever you don't like, whatever you are against weakens you, and whatever you support will give you strength. But in my own case, I beg to differ from that. What actually strengthens me is what I'm against. When I'm against something, I'm a born fighter. I have the energy to go all the way to make sure that I effect a change. I see myself as somebody who is a trailblazer, somebody who wants to see a different world. And I try as much as possible to work for the world, that I want to see. And that is why my work aligns with SDIG, because I know that in SDIG, it's all about inclusion, it's about diversity, not leaving anybody behind, not leaving the people that are underprivileged behind. So I'm in gender and development communication. And I believe that there must be an inclusive society in which we empower everybody to be who they have been created to be, to realize their potentials. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I would like to give a moment. I know Dr. Rajput, you gave a brief opening before, but I'll give you another minute or so to give your opening for this education panel.
Sure. So my journey has been defined by a belief that true education doesn't just change what we know, it transforms who we become. So from a lecture hall to the policy tables of ministries of women and child development, I have lived the education not as a profession, but as a purpose. And armed with doctorate in commerce, I began as a teacher, but every classroom soon revealed itself as a microcosm of the society. I saw brilliance often shadowed by biasness, potential confined by patriarchy, and young women taught to dream within the boundaries. So this shift came when I led one of my first institutional audit on the gender and leadership. There I realized that the glass ceilings doesn't always break loudly. Sometimes it's silent, woven into daily systems of exclusion. So that silence became my calling. And through my work as a panel trainer for the She Box initiative of Ministry of Women and Child Development and a POSH educator, so I commit myself to make society a place of respect, dignity, and a lived reality in academia and beyond. So that's all what I do.
Oh, thank you very much. So, Dr. Nwoye, you are up. If you can give us a brief intro, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you very much, Dr. Walker. I have been moved by so many things I've had today. But first, I want to thank the distinguished esteemed leaders that I happen to have the privilege to share this forum with. As I listened to the young man in Africa speaking to the World Organization, all he was asking was for people to see him as a human being, for people to give him access to education, because he knows that education is the, as Horace Mann said, is the greatest equalizer. He wants to improve his life. Refugees are they're like everybody else. Any one of us could be refugee should we have blunder-driven leaders that could put us in such circumstance at any point in time, and we don't have control of it. Above all, what drives me is experience I've had with well thought out human beings who've done some indelible things to foster peace, equity, and social justice. In my first statement, I talked about the debate between Du Bois and Washington. I talked about Jefferson and Hamilton. Those debates continue. And those debates are a reflection of what we do at SDIG. We believe that through engagement, through debate, we will be ushered to a new and higher contour of learning and understanding, human understanding. That will give us the opportunity to hear people like this guy who made me, each time I watch him, I get so sad. At the same time, I get very angry. But unfortunately, that's where some people are put in this world. They can't change it. It's just what the life is for them. So that gets me to education, and I don't want to talk much about it, but I can tell you this. Experience is the greatest inducer of change, because when you see things that disturbs you, it goes deep. Such things will enable you to change. I had my book that was based on belief formation and belief transformation. The idea was that from wherever you are, you've been shaped by your parents, your communities, the people you see and people you don't see. You have a perception of them. And those things cumulatively shape your behavior. And the only way you can genuinely get into realistic information, ideas that would help you to shape a better belief system that could be consistent with real life situation, you have to open your mind to learn, especially from those you don't agree with, from those you never heard of, from those you don't know, from those who do not look like you. If you don't do that, you are lost.
Dr. Joseph, we appreciate that. And
All
I
right.
want to give you more time to speak to, this topic of, for this panel, achieving holistic development, national growth, and harmony through education. So with our great panelists, we'd like to open it up to a topic we touched on briefly earlier in the conference, but not from an education aspect, is how can our education systems be kind of redefined or redesigned to promote both the academic excellence and emotional intelligence that we've been talking about? Anybody want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can speak on
Good.
it. So basically, I'm an educationist, and I entered Delhi University 34 years ago. So if you ask me about the redesigning to promote academic excellence and emotional intelligence, I would like to give my views on this, that we have mastered the science of information but forgotten the art of introspection. So when I began teaching, I noticed something very unsettling with my students. They were brilliant, they could articulate well, they were competitive, ambitious, but beneath the surface, many were silently breaking. They knew how to pass exams, but not how to process the failures. They could interpret financial statements, but not their own emotions. So that realization actually changed the way I started teaching them. I began integrating the emotional literacy into the business studies, asking students to reflect their journals, dialogue, not just about what they learn, but who they become while learning. So soon the classrooms actually stopped being transactional spaces of grades and started becoming more transformational spaces of growth. So in that process, I developed a concept called gender wheel. So it is like which just examine the external systems of inequalities, but also the internal imbalances. That is how conditioning teaches the boys to hide sensitivity and girls to silence ambition. So through this, I understood that the true education must heal these fractured, identities, what we have inherited. So in my view, academic excellence without emotional intelligence is just building without foundation. So we can produce engineers, economists, but without empathy, we cannot even produce leaders. So that's where SDIG global framework complements my vision actually. So just wide and loud, I'm saying that Dr. Joseph Noyne's philosophy that diversity must be systemic and wellness must be intentional has shown me that the future of education lies in the union of the head, heart, and humanity.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's what I
thank
feel.
you. That's very very eloquent. I love the way that you put that. Um, Dr. Adekunle, did you have a comment on this of us kind of promoting academic excellence and emotional intelligence?
Yes, I have a comment like Professor Namita said, academic knowledge without the emotional intelligence is actually a waste of time. And that is why we have had the crisis of leadership in our time. And we are where we are right now. We know what is happening within the global setting. So if we are training people, to give them academic knowledge and the emotional intelligence is not there, then I believe that we're still wasting our time. The whole of the model of our education has to change so that we can see positive changes, within the society.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that. Um, Dr. Angela, did you want to speak on this?
Yes. If we want academic excellence, I believe we must cultivate emotional intelligence. And because learning is not just a cognitive process, it's a human one. And I always
Mm,
go back to being human centered. So redesigning education means, again, in my opinion, embedding social emotional learning, SEL, across all subjects, not as a separate unit, but as a lens for how we teach everything, whether it's mathematics or literature or even science. Students should be learning how to collaborate, how to listen, how to manage frustration, and approach challenges with curiosity rather than with fear. Systems must also model what they teach. That means investing in teacher wellness, trauma informed practices, culturally responsive approaches. Again, this
mm,
is something that I'm training students in now, and the workplace. So that acknowledges the emotional realities of both students and educators. Teachers who feel valued, supported, and psychologically safe, I believe they're more capable of creating that same safety for their students. The truth is, emotional safety is a prerequisite for intellectual risk taking. So when learners feel respected and understood, they take chances, they ask questions, they admit their mistakes, they explore more. That's where excellence begins. And as a people strategist, I often remind organizations and people, and the same applies to schools, that you cannot teach what you do not model. And the emotional
mm.
tone is of a learning environment that sets the ceiling for high. So it actually sets the ceiling high, and students can rise.
Yeah, I love that. And each of you has touched on such the human element, right, being important. And I love Dr. Adekunle, you also was just saying that if you don't consider the emotional aspect, it's really you're wasting your time in education. And that speaks to what you've been saying too, Dr. Smith, is that you really have to open people's minds through their heart in other ways. So I appreciate that. Dr. Nwoye, did you want to comment on this one, or we can move to the next question?
Sure, I
There
can
we go.
respond to that very briefly. Academics without emotions is nonsense. I say that because emotional intelligence can be looked at in a couple of dimensions. Says your ability to regulate yourself in the midst of all kinds of things going on. When we talk about curriculum, if you have a curriculum you're not connected with, your chances of learning diminishes dramatically. And when you contrast the person, with someone whose experiences are linked to the materials the person is learning, the level of understanding deepens and accelerates because the person can see other dimensions through which they can connect what they know. Former chair of Temple University, Dr. Chente, talked about visiting his students in Ghana. And when he looked at those people, he said, wow, this person looks Emir. Students from Nigeria, this person looks like Emir of Yoruba or Emir of Kano, Emir of this and that. Those things resonate with the learners. And when they resonate with the learners, that's when we can say we are putting teaching and learning in practical terms. Again, it brings me to issue of access, issue of racism, issue of class, like you had the guy who spoke to the United Nations pleading for access. So those are, you have to incorporate all those things. It's a whole package. And if you don't use them to reflect them in curriculum and instructional practices, it's bankrupt. So that's how I will approach it.
Yeah, thank you. That's powerful. Powerful. With that being said, Dr. Nwoye, and the rest of the panel, I mean, what role do you think that the indigenous kind of knowledge and our cultural heritage plays in national curriculum? Like, what do you think about that? Any of the panel members want to speak to that? Dr. Adekunle, you're on mute if you are talking to the group.
Yes, talking about the indigenous knowledge, yeah, there is a way many of us say that the old times are actually better than now. Because, I mean, when you talk of the level of empathy that people used to have, sense of community, you know, people come to the conclusion that the present time, you know, so I mean, the old times are better than the times that we are living in. Because, well, let's say that the world was young, and the world had not yet learned all sorts of wise and know some underhand practices, okay? So we had solid values in those old times, and that's why indigenous knowledge, you know, really matter, because we know when we come to the family, you know, that's bonding in the family, you know, the indigenous practices of bonding in families, loyalty, family loyalty, community loyalty, all those were solid values that community held together. So these are things that must be brought, you know, up for discussion in classes, in our classrooms. We need to bring up indigenous culture, allow people to share their knowledge of indigenous practices, you know, and maybe probably we have older people invited who can come, you know, to actually talk about these values, all those solid values that we don't need to leave behind as the world grows older. So that haven't been said. You know, the way you can actually bring about change is when people actually live the kind of change. Because somebody was asking me that, okay, because I'm a development advocate, that how do you actually get people, you know, as a development advocate, how do you actually get people to change? the way you get people to change is that you must build scenarios, you must do experience sharing, you must allow people to express their minds. If you think there is anything that you think you cannot adapt to, you need to share your ideas, you know, and you need to talk about your constraints. What are those things that will not allow you to change your practices? Share with others and let others, you know, also voice what they feel. So indigenous knowledge is very, very, very important. So we need to share, we need history, we need people who are immersed, you know, in the indigenous knowledge to come to share their experiences. And we need our young people to ask questions about the indigenous knowledge. And we need to see the kind of synergy that we can bring about between the indigenous knowledge and what we have presently. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I know I like how you said, you know, we think of the old way is a better way. I mean, before we learned maybe some bad habits with our new ways of technology and so forth. So, any others want to comment on this? Our
Yeah, I
cultural
would like to,
heritage? Good.
yeah, I would love to add Indian perspective to it. So when a civilization actually forgets wisdom, it learns to live efficiently, but not meaningfully. So, what I can say on this is that in a world which is increasingly defined by algorithms, India reminds us of something timeless, that education was never meant to produce only professional, it was meant to create a purposeful human beings. So, I would like to give two examples that in our ancient systems in India, we had Gurukul models like Nalanda and Takshashila, which was viewed as a knowledge as a sacred balance between the intellect, ethics, and emotional depth. So, in those learning traditions, the logic coexisted with empathy, and the science evolved with spirituality, and the wisdom was measured not by the information but by the inner understanding. So, if you could see that spirit into the modern curriculum, we would not only be educating the sharper minds, we would be nurturing the steadier hearts. And imagine teaching sustainability through our Vedic ideas of Prakriti in India, the interconnectedness of all life, environmental ethics through ahimsa, which means non-violence towards the nature, and the leadership through dharma, which means responsibility that prioritize the conscious over convenience. So these principles are not the relics of the past, they are timeless frameworks for the global survival of the harmony. So at SDIG also, we see how indigenous knowledge can meet innovation through AI-driven cultural preservations. We can document some oral histories, folk music, craft traditions, and local sciences that have long served the communities sustainably. So we call this approach as a techno-heritage integration, where technology does not erase tradition, but amplifies its voice. So education system worldwide can learn from the Indian ethos that wisdom is not born in competition but in coexistence, that progress is not opposite of tradition but it is a continuation, and learning must always begin with the gratitude of knowledge that came before us. So we have to, a nation greatest innovation is not what it invents, but what it chooses to remember. So that's what my take is on this.
Thank you. I like that. The techno heritage. That's
Model,
great.
yes.
Yeah. Dr. Smith or Dr. Nwoye, any comment here?
Yeah, I can comment on this. I think the previous speakers have actually spoken very well on the issue of indigenous knowledge and the current. And I would say this. This is essentially the bedrock of what we do at SDIG. We do believe strongly that knowledge could be coming in different forms. Anyone who believes that one aspect of knowledge is the answer is naive. The knowledge Martin Jacquard, who happened to be a British writer, acquired encompasses the indigenous knowledge. I presume he learned from the indigenes of British, and what he learned from other people. And those things projected him to predict the research he did, and the result is what we are seeing today. And in his book titled When China Rules the World, he predicted the emergence of China to be a global power, for good or bad. And I think that knowledge enabled him to be able to see, and if our political leaders are people who are engaged and are, conversant with the kind of varied knowledge that we talk about, they should have infused that in order to carve a better path for our global community. So I would say that as far as education is concerned, I will advocate for a more inclusive and none aspect of education should be left behind, because that would make us better people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to move to this next topic, and I want to give Dr. Angela Cleo Smith an opportunity maybe to start us out, is how can schools teach kindness and teamwork and respect along with, the reading and the math that were so, standardized and having to do? I mean, how can schools start to look at those areas?
Yeah, no, I love this question because if schools can model respect in their daily practices, students will carry that lesson far beyond the classroom into the world that we're all trying to improve. We teach kindness, we teach teamwork and respect the same way we teach reading or math, by making social learning intentional and not incidental. So when empathy and collaboration are built into lesson design, they stop being soft skills and they start becoming success skills. And schools can embed this through group projects, restorative circles, service learning models, and that connects academic content to community needs. So when service learning, for example, integrates classroom instruction with meaningful community engagement, where students can apply what they learn in real life settings, and that will reflect on how they work and how that benefits others. Also, just to say, these experiences don't just teach academic concepts, they build civic responsibility, compassion, and ability to collaborate across differences. And just ultimately, the way we structure learning should mirror the society we want to build. One grounded in empathy, another in accountability, and then also that will ultimately become our shared growth.
Wow. Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think, if either Dr. Namita or Dr. Adekunle, if you want to jump in, I think Dr. Namita, you had a model, I think, of measuring kindness you had mentioned
Yeah,
before. Sure.
yeah, it was just a minute. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we spoke about the technology and also about the ethics and a combination of ethics, values, and technology. So as far as the question is concerned, in the schools, like we teach mathematics, like we teach science, we have to teach the kindness, respect, and all the value system. We cannot leave it at the luck and the overall perspective that students will learn on their own. It has to be deliberately taught, because otherwise, if they are not uh, if they are not a part of the curriculum, then definitely we cannot expect the results to happen. So, we have to systemically put that in the curriculum and teach them in the school. And of course, the world today produces the intelligent graduates who can solve the equations, but the struggle to resolve the conflicts is not there. So who can, they are the people who can decode the algorithms, but they cannot decode the emotions. So in my decades of being an educator, I have learned that kindness, like literacy, must be taught deliberately. It cannot be left to the chance or a moral luck. It must be a curriculum as intentional as mathematics and language. So teaching kindness begins with how we structure the classroom itself. Like when I was the head of the institution in one of the Delhi University College, I introduced collaborative learning circles where the students worked not to outperform, but to uplift one another. So there was a cooperation, not competition. So when the teamwork became a method of learning, empathy became the hidden syllabus. So I witnessed that quieter students begin to speak, stronger students begin to listen, and the classroom was transformed from competition into a community. So respect too is also learned experientially when a teacher greets a student by name. So when the feedback is given with dignity, when the differences are discussed instead of dismissed, these become everyday lessons in humanity. So the curriculum must include the act of compassion as assignments, volunteering, per mentorship, and reflective journalism that nurture the emotional courage. So in SDIG also, the kindness and respect are not the soft skills, they are the survival skills for the future. And because of the next century, will not belong to those who compete the hardest. It will belong to those who care the deepest.
Yeah, thank you. I see Dr. Adekunle is appreciative of your collaborative model.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
Dr. Adekunle, did you have something? I saw Dr. Joseph's hand up, but I think he dropped for a minute. So.
Oh, okay, maybe probably that was a mistake. Yes, I love the collaborative model, and the problem that I've seen in our educational system is most of the time, development advocates, they come with different models and introduce, is there like a project, and this can be implemented, and when the lifespan of the project is over, is discarded. So that's why it has to become core, in the core part of the curriculum. And part of the reason why we cannot sustain this in the curriculum is that the curriculum is not developed in a way that, bring everybody together. There must be participatory development of the curriculum. I've learned a lot. I always tell my students, anytime we are opening a semester, that you see, you are going to learn from me, but I'm also looking forward to learning a lot from you, because everybody has something to bring to the table. You have something to learn. For instance, now, if you ask your students, if you ask your students some questions about certain things, for instance, how can we ensure that everybody, models kindness, models empathy, you'll be so surprised with all they're going to say, what they're going to tell you about how to model, So we should bring parents, religious leaders, together in creating the kind of curricula that will ensure that these things are actually grounded, and that means that when you are also rewarding, like you are doing assessment, you're also going to reward this, so that students don't see it as if it's not part of the curriculum, because you know that an average student is after their grades, they're after their scores. So students who have shown empathy, who have shown kindness, must be rewarded with their grades, and then they must be honored, like giving awards. Awards is not just about academic excellence, it's also about students who have shown empathy, who have been supportive of others. So these are the different ways in which we really need to achieve this, or else it just be something that development advocates continue to talk about all the time. And then when you have a project, at the end of the lifespan of that project, is discarded. So that's just my contribution.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't think all the time we think about, the end when you're kind of tied in, but that's more of a strategic approach, I think, to the learning model and instilling some of those values. So I appreciate that. I want to move to the next question here so we have enough time, but for the panel, what does inclusive education look like when we're talking about multilingual or multicultural societies? What does that look like? Inclusive education in those formats. Go ahead, Dr. Smith. You want to talk to this?
Yes, I believe that when language becomes connection instead of correction, education stops dividing and starts uniting. And that's where I think true inclusion begins. Inclusion education honors language as a bridge and not a barrier. And this is something I always teach my students. And it recognizes that every language carries history, culture, and emotion. And that honoring those languages is essential to belonging. So when schools design curricula, materials, and communication practices that reflect all linguistic communities, they're not just teaching content, they're teaching respect. And I use this all the time that true inclusion also means teaching cultural humility. We're never going to understand all languages, all cultures, all people's values and backgrounds. So, ensuring that educators have both the training and the flexibility to adapt lessons that celebrates diversity and includes families as partners in learning. And just finally, I'm going to say, because for time, that inclusion in diverse societies is not just about assimilation. It's about co-creation, building learning spaces where differences is normalized, not exceptional. So when we affirm identity, we don't just make students feel welcome, we make them feel essential to the shared story of all of our communities. And I'll stop.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Um, the other two panel members, anything you want to comment on inclusive education in multilingual or multicultural societies?
Let me try to chime into this
Sure.
particular one.
Go ahead, Dr. Nwoye.
I used to have what I call a formula. And the formula established was essentially to incorporate all aspects. Because sometimes, I think as one of you spoke earlier, you think you have everything, but you don't. The only person who will know is someone who had been excluded. So I use that formula, and I'm going to put it just in brief. M squared, P squared, and T squared. We can get to the explaining those things at a later time. But it means that it encompasses parents, teachers, students, cultures of all kinds, including families of all sorts. Because each person, when they come into that class, they want to be seen. They want to see that their teacher recognizes them. I had some research some of my students submitted a while ago, where teachers may come from Harvard, Princeton, qualified in our most prestigious institutions, and yet they know little or nothing about certain segments of their students' body. And those people, they do not know something about them. They have some sort of acculturated knowledge. And if you want to do this, because it's in almost in every aspect of our lives, when the Europeans went to Africa, they had a meeting. And in that meeting, they were all the empires of European nations. They discussed two things. One, how can they exploit the resources of that continent and share it so that they can operate in different segments? And second, they try to have an approach where no one will fight one another so that they do the things well. And in that particular meeting, there was no African involved. That tells a whole lot of stories. The same applies to education. When we marginalize certain segments of our organization or society or individuals, I don't consider that to be holistic. So when you talk about linguistic, culture, etc., you have to ensure that you embark on holistic approach. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I know Dr. Rajput, you wanted to chime in on
Yeah,
this topic.
yeah. Again, I would like to add some Indian perspective. The number of states and the union territories in India is 28 states and 8 union territories, each of its own distinct culture, linguistic, and educational landscape. The Constitution of India in the 8th schedule recognizes 22 official languages like Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Urdu, Gujarati, Kannada, Malayalam, Punjabi, etc.
Wow.
However, so the Census of India identifies over 1,600 mother tongues spoken across the country. So out of these 121 languages are spoken by more than 10,000 people each. So you can see the extent of multilingual classrooms. So in many Indian schools, especially in the metropolitan and semi-urban areas, students in a single classroom may represent 10 languages background. So English and Hindi are often used as the linked languages, but the regional languages remain emotional and cultural anchors of the learning. So in this backdrop, I would like to add here that in a multicultural and a multilingual society like India, inclusive education cannot be a policy. It must be a lived philosophy because every classroom becomes a micronism of a nation and meeting the grounds of languages and identifies the untold histories. So when I talk into a classroom in India, I see diversity not as a challenge, but as a chorus. Like we have different instruments and we listen to a symphony. On the similar pretext, we see the classroom in India. I see the diversity as a chorus. And these are the students who think in Hindi, write in English, speak Tamil, dream in mathematics, and those who carry the rural wisdom, they are into the urban spaces. So imagine the context what I'm talking about in India. So inclusive education begins when the system learns to listen to all these voices with equality, respect, and without hierarchy. So this is what we practice in India, and this is how we, carry the new education policy into practices. And of course, our classrooms are not uniform; they are universities of diversity. So that's it. That is why inclusive education here is not a concept; it is a necessity, born of a lived reality in India. So this is what I wanted to mention about the Indian context. Because
Yes,
India is a
thank you.
world in itself. India is a world
Yeah,
in itself.
I think you made an excellent point with that. I mean, there's 22 different languages. I can't imagine in the classroom like that. I think United States, I think, is it's very biased a lot of times against language. I feel that, people think if you can't speak English, then you don't know much. And I think it's just so much value in how much, other countries respect languages enough to have like 22 different spoken languages. And in the United States, we're just so close-minded on the sense of English. So I appreciate your perspective on that. Just in essence of time, I do want to move to the next one and we'll let Dr. Adekunle start is everything we've been talking about, just how can we empower educators to lead the systemic changes that we're talking about, in a national development? I mean, what would you recommend, that educators can actually do to support these changes?
Thank you so much, Beto. Sorry, I think there's something I want to say about the last topic. I
Yes,
will quickly
please,
say,
please.
for instance, now in Nigeria, I'm a Nigerian, and now in Nigeria we have 276 languages. So,
Wow.
but you see, there are certain concepts in certain languages that are really, really very impressive. They capture exactly what you want to say. And that is how, we've moved on as a nation. We borrow concepts from different languages, like even as in Africa, there are some concepts borrowed from Swahili. When you maybe want to express borderliness, you want to express bond. So when our classroom is showing that, you're not looking at one language as being superior to the other. You're not looking at a culture as being superior to the other, but you are taking the solid values from a particular culture and trying to make people to imbibe those values. I believe that there will be proper, linguistic integration in our classes. No, now coming to how to empower our educators. I think it has to do, there is a teacher training curriculum. So it has to do with the teacher training curriculum. All that we have been discussing must be integrated, well integrated into the teacher training curriculum. And we also need to update the skills and the knowledge and the skills of educators to actually implement these things from time to time. So like when we have these summer vacation, we have that is the time to try to empower educators so that whatever we are teaching the students must actually be modeled by our own lives, our own class. The school administration too must model what you are saying, what you are talking about, must model the respect, for our diversity. Must be not because at times school administration we favor, you see them favoring some racial groups above others. You see them favoring the rich, above the poor. So, for instance, now when you are the head of a school, like the principal of a school, and you allow the children of the rich to get away with misconduct, whereas you impose heavy punishment, which happens here a lot. At times when you have a school where you have whites, you see that the punishment that is imposed for any misconduct may not be as strong as what is imposed on the misconduct of a Black person. So these are the kind of things that we know. A school administration you cannot say what you don't practice. So it must be part of the school administration. It must be part of the classroom practices by a teacher. And teachers, must be empowered, updated in their knowledge to actually implement all these things. And this teacher training, like I said, curriculum must also reflect this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is empowering. If you are in a position of, administration or the principal even, to consider those types of things, and what you may be modeling. So I appreciate that. Dr. Cleo Smith, did you have something?
Yes, and I agree with what was just said. But when we empower educators, I think as co-creators of policy and not just carriers of curriculum, we build nations that learn and not just schools that teach. So I believe that educators are the backbone of national development, and they're the artistic. Am I answering the right question? I wanted to make sure we're talking about national development. Okay, because I was thinking, did we answer this question already? But I believe that educators are the architects of human potential, but they're often positioned as implementers of policy rather than as partners in shaping it. So empowering educators to lead systemic change begins with that trust, with that training, and that shared decision making. So first, we must trust teachers as innovators. When teachers are given the autonomy to design lessons, pilot new models, and contribute to policy discussions, education becomes responsive rather than rigid. So we've seen this in places where teacher-led networks and professional learning communities drive curriculum, reform, and classroom innovation. And then second, we must invest in professional development that moves beyond pedagogy to include leadership, advocacy, and systems thinking. So educators who understand how policy, economics, and culture intersect can better advocate for equity and national progress. And then ultimately, national development depends not only on what we teach, but on who is teaching and how we support them. So when educators are respected as thought leaders, change agents, and cultural ambassadors, they help transform education from a delivery system into a development system, one that nurtures both minds and nations. And I'll stop there.
Oh, thank you so much. And I see Dr. Butler is just really feeling what you're saying too, that you're really on point with that. I'm going to give one more panelist an opportunity to answer this one, and we'll move to our last question.
Yeah, I can add here. When we empower a teacher, we don't just shape a classroom, we recalibrate a civilization. So educators are the quiet nation builders. They don't just lead the armies, they lead the minds. But the true empowerment begins when we trust them, not just to deliver the curriculum, but to design the future. So when you talk about India again, stretching across 28 states and 1,600 languages. We are living the laboratories of democracy. Every teacher here is not only teaching the alphabets, but nurturing the empathy, critical thought, and the social equity. So there are basically three freedoms which I want to state here. Freedom to innovate, that is to blend tradition with technology and imagination. Freedom to collaborate, to connect with the peers globally, as SDIG has enabled us to do so. And freedom to influence, to move from executing policies to shaping them. So through SDIG, I've witnessed actually how the educators can evolve from instructor to the architects of inclusion. So using AI, cultural inheritance, intelligence, and emotional literacy to rebuild the learning ecosystems grounded in humanity. So empowered teachers don't wait for the change, they teach it into being. So that's what I want to, highlight.
Oh, thank you. I think each of you really just spoke to the empowerment and kind of the calling of education right now to kind of be so much more beyond the classroom itself. And for this last question here, I'll open up to Dr. Nwoye first, but how can education kind of foster that resilience we're talking about, the empathy and the collaboration in this polarized world that we're kind of in right now?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And to start with that, we have to begin to figure out, do we respect our teachers? Do we respect educators? And the parameter for checking that is, what do we pay them? Especially in a capitalistic world. We have educators who will do 3 jobs. I used to have many adjunct faculty members with their PhDs. They're running from town to town, teaching in 5 schools to barely make it. And when you teach as an adjunct, what they pay you is equivalent to what they pay people at McDonald's. I usually say that educators are the new way where we really discourage people who want to do the society's most needed job. So if you look at some places like Finland, where before you get into teaching, you have to have master's degree at minimum in education. You have to be conversant with research that is like breaking ground, the best research you can possibly see. Teachers are respected. They are made to be quintessential of the society. It's like clergy from where I was brought up, clergy, priests. Priests are placed in the highest level. Teachers in Finland are seen in that way. But here I see teachers running helter-skelter, trying to feed themselves. As a result, they don't have the energy. They don't have time to do research. You talk about pedagogy. Where do they have time to read about new pedagogies? Reading or researching is something of the past for a lot of those adjuncts. And societal respect is of primary importance. If we don't respect our teachers, we should not expect them to do so much. And that's how we've treated educators, not only in the United States, but around the world, in almost all countries. You point one that isn't the same, with the exception of Finland and a couple of few ones. I think I would say by supporting educators, letting them know that they matter, that's the best way to change the trajectory of teacher preparation and delivering of instructional services. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's important we do pay attention to how much our educators, do foster kind of everything we've been talking about. We have time for probably one more panel member to speak to this. Anybody want to speak to the continuing to foster the resilience?
Yeah, I can add something here
Sure.
that in this polarized world, the cultural intelligence is more crucial than cognitive intelligence. So classrooms that include indigenous art, folk, literature, regional narratives, they teach students to see difference as depth, not division. So this is one thing. Then you should, practice more of storytelling as a pedagogical bridge. Because if you isolate replacing those isolated facts with the interconnected human stories will bring more empathy, resilience, and awareness to the students. And also, we should teach our students how to fail gracefully. So resilience is not born from the success, but from surviving setbacks. That's very, very important. What I feel is. And then, of course, we have certain important facts like the education as emotional ecology, which has already been expressed by so many previous speakers. And also, the last thing which I want to mention here is that now there is a concept of mirror curriculum, that each student must learn to see themselves in the others, like through multicultural narratives, the mirror assignments and empathy journals. The children learn not who am I against, but who I am with. So this helps dismantle their prejudice early and builds the emotional equity across the differences. So these are some essential, steps which we can
Yeah.
take to promote resilience.
I like that, the storytelling aspect. Um, I don't see any questions for our panel members in the Q&A, and I know this has been kind of a rushed panel because we had 4 members. So I do want to give you an opportunity just to give a closing statement for this panel, and so we'll let Dr. Adekunle go first.
Yeah, yes, I just want to say something about building the resilience, in a pluralized world. I read a book, Nyan, a book is titled Sundiata. Sundiata, an epic of ancient Mali Empire. The book so inspired me, and because it's, whenever they were going to war, they will the court griot, they call them griots, the court singers will sing the praise of different families of the warriors, and how their father were able to perform great feats and everything. And then the man will pose a question to them and ask them that, what do you want me to tell the generations to come about you? And that so much inspired those warriors. I mean, it's a story that doesn't come from my culture, but I love that story and I love the practice, So what am I trying to say? Historical facts, stories from history can build people with, strong will, to face challenges. And they know that, okay, different cultures, maybe you've been looking down on a particular people because you just see them and just look down on them. But when you read stories about the way they had solid, cultural practices and everything, that makes you to sort of respect them, and you can learn 1 or 2 things from the culture. So I want to say strongly that history is very important to be brought back strongly, into the curriculum. So having said that, I just want to say that everything that we have been talking about here has to do with a general overhauling of our educational system, the way we derive our curricula, ensuring that we have contribution from people, different segments of the society, that different groups are represented, different voices are heard, even in the way we design our curriculum. And to also ensure that the people that will implement the curriculum, they are also empowered and they are part of this process. And that's why I talk of 6 different segments. You cannot say you are drawing up a curriculum and you don't have the teachers who are going to implement the curriculum there, because some people think that they have all the skills. You don't need to bring classroom teachers. So when we are able to do all this, empower the people, and then we have practical steps to ensure that our students, our pupils, they imbibe, empathy, respect for others, respect for culture, practice and everything, then I believe there's going to be a change. So I want to thank my fellow panelists for all that they have contributed. It's been a period of learning for me too. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And if you're able to put the title of that book you mentioned in the chat, that would be helpful. It sounds like a great
Okay,
read.
I'll put
So,
it. Yeah,
okay.
I'll put it there.
So we have just like a minute left. If Dr. Smith, you want to give closing remarks, and then we'll let Dr. Rajput go.
Yeah, I just want to say that education is one of the most powerful bridges that we can build between cultures. And it allows us to move beyond borders and assumptions to see humanity through each other's eyes. And as we leave this space, may we carry forward a collective commitment to educate with empathy, to teach with humility, and to lead with cultural understanding. Because when education becomes an act of exchange, rather than extraction, it transforms us all and reminds us that learning at its core is an expression of shared humanity. And thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. It's been our pleasure. Dr. Rajput? Oh, you're muted still.
So just a few lines. The future belongs to the loudest voices, but to the most understanding hearts. Let education be the quiet revolution, one that teaches us just how to think, but how to care. And when that happens, the walls that divide us will fall, not through power, but through understanding and empathy. That's all.
Oh, thank you so much. Dr. Nwoye, did you want to? You're on mute as well.
I'm going to be very brief. I just want to thank this esteemed panelists. I'm so proud of each and every one of you, and so should you, as well as our eminent moderator, Dr. Walker.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure to have this opportunity.
Now, to the question, I would say, I can't remember the name of this person I'm trying to cite her work. And her work was basically stories, the danger of a single story. We should all embrace multiple stories. The more stories we arm ourselves with, the better we understand the importance of education. And thusly, do the necessary research, adapt the pedagogy that works, throw away the traditional pedagogy, create social system that enables everyone to feel like he or she has a space. And when we do that, meaningful learning will be ushered in. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much. It's been another amazing panel, and we just appreciate everyone's support and the empowerment you've provided to educators today. And again, if you want to get in touch with any of our panelists, all of the contact information is in your registration link. As we're preparing for our fourth panel for the day, I do just want to put another reminder, SDIG is a 501(c) organization. So if you like the work that we're doing, please continue to support us. You can donate or have your colleagues learn more about us and donate as well, so we can continue to showcase the great work that each of you are doing around the world. So I put the website in the chat so you're able to see it and touch the donation links there. So our fourth session is going to be on law and policing. And this is one that Dr. Nwoye is going to take away here. And we have our esteemed guest speaker is Carlton T. Mayers, and the second.